All right, well, a large part of the country identifies as vegetarian or vegan, between 1 in 10 and 1 in 20, according to recent data. Today, scientists are exploring what can happen if those people decide to try meat again. Some people have self-reported symptoms of meat intolerance on social media. Joining us now to talk all about it, of course, our 9 News medical expert, Dr. Payal Kohli. Okay, Dr. Kohli, this is very interesting when you emailed this to me.
Yes.
As a vegetarian/vegan myself.
Yeah.
So if you have been vegan or vegetarian and you decide that you want to reintroduce meat, does it depend on one? Is it like white meat versus red meat, and can your body digest it?
Yeah, this has been trending on social media. People are saying that you develop a meat intolerance. So you lose the ability, your body loses the ability to digest the meat. And it comes from, lactose intolerance. So if you think about milk, if you haven't had milk in a long time, there's an enzyme called lactase that breaks down milk, that goes away, and it starts to become hard to have milk. But if you look at animal products, like proteins from animals, it's really very different. So if you can break down pea protein, if you can break down other types of plant-based proteins, like soybeans, you can break down chicken and fish and all those proteins, because it's all made up of the same amino acids. So it really doesn't matter how long you've been vegan or vegetarian. Now, the interesting thing is that certain proteins are easier to digest. So certainly white meat is a little easier. It's leaner, so easier for our body to digest than red meat.
Okay, so you just explained it. So what do you think is going on here? Is it psychological, maybe?
It is a very real phenomena, Sam. And the problem is, if you haven't had meat for a long time, you're sort of at war with your food. And this is, I think, raises the interesting concept of our relationship with food. Because if we're antagonistic when we're eating the food, it does affect us in psychological ways. And in fact, the stomach ache, the nausea, the diarrhea, all of the symptoms that people feel when they eat meat after not eating it for a long time originate from anger, from resentment, and from an internal conflict that they have about the process of eating meat again.
Wow, that is fascinating. Are there differences in the gut of meat eaters and vegetarians, scientifically?
There are, in fact. So that's what's interesting, is for someone who eats vegetables all the time versus meat, your gut can change very quickly. In fact, within a day.
Really?
You go from one type of diet to the other.
And is that bad?
Well, so it changes the way that your body reacts to food. So the bacteria changes, and then the types of, enzymes and proteins that the bacteria makes also change. So, but it's not all that different that it prevents you from being able to break down the other type of product. But, our gut bacteria, Sam, is like our fingerprint. It looks different for every person.
Wow.
And it's highly dependent on what we eat. So if we start eating very processed foods, that's going to change our gut bacteria. But people will notice sometimes they'll get, changes in their bowel habits, they get more constipated or something if they start to change the types of food that they eat. And that really comes from that gut bacteria.
Unbelievable. So can you be allergic to meat? Or if you give up meat, can you then have an allergy to it, or no?
You can.
You
can.
This is
very rare.
Okay.
But there's a subset of people that have something called alpha-gal, which is an allergy to meat, where the immune system thinks that the meat protein is foreign. And in fact, it is foreign. It's not a protein that they recognize, but it thinks that it's doing something to the body, and it starts attacking it. So it causes an anaphylaxis type of reaction, like an allergy to the meat. Now, that can even develop over the course of your life if you're someone who's eaten meat before. But a true meat allergy or intolerance is, in fact, very rare.
Very rare.
It does exist.
Okay, it does exist.
Yeah.
Now, if someone does, let's say they've been vegetarian, vegan for a long time, and they want to start reintroducing meat into their diet, is there a specific way to do it that you would recommend?
Yes. So first, you want to start with really tiny meat portions, because the larger portions are going to cause you some GI distress if you're trying to digest a large amount of meat, because it just tends to be heavier and more concentrated protein than some of the vegetables that you're used to eating. You want to use those lean cuts, or really try to stick to chicken or fish or those types of meats rather than going for the red meat or steak, pork right away, because that can be really, really heavy. And then you want to make sure the other things you're eating with the meat are super easy to digest, because again, your bacteria is not quite used to it. And we know that the gut is now our little brain. It's linked to all the health and all the disease out there.
Our little brain.
Yeah. So it changes the way that our body reacts to food, which changes the inflammation, which changes our health risk. So you want to eat it with something like potatoes, mashed potatoes, cooked rice, something that's really easy to digest for our gut.
Fascinating. Yeah. Dr. Kohli always has the answers. Thank you so much, Dr. Kohli, as always.